Reynolds is trying to destroy Baldoni, but his narcissism is working against him. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. For those of you who have not accessed my brilliant analysis of Ryan Reynolds, I'd encourage you to do so and to ensure that you direct other people to it who are invested in the spat that's taking place between Ryan Reynolds, his wife, Blake Lively, who is currently undergoing an analysis, and also Justin Baldoni. Many of you have had an involvement at some point with a narcissist, and therefore you can vouch for the impact that it has. Many people, when first ensnared by a narcissist, don't know what they are dealing with. They make numerous mistakes, honest but nevertheless mistakes, which cause them to continue to interact with the narcissist, providing the narcissist with fuel, being given the runaround, being given the push and the pull, ending up being ground down and worn out by the behaviours of the narcissist. However, over time, through the implementation of a no-contact regime and the reduction of your emotional thinking, and most importantly of all, access to my comprehensive body of work, not only do you learn so much about the narcissist and how to defend yourself, but you also learn that with many narcissists, their narcissism ultimately gets in the way for them. In respect of the ongoing dispute that has taken place between Reynolds, Lively and Baldoni, as you know, I've already analysed Ryan Reynolds to find a determination that he is a narcissist and that he belongs to the upper mid-range subschool. This essentially means that he doesn't know what he is, but he does have an extensive reach, enjoys success, is highly manipulative, and operates in a haughty, dismissive, but polished manner. Yet, even with someone as successful as Reynolds, who's carved out a well-known and successful film career and has excelled as a businessman, making him not only very well-known but very wealthy, his current conduct in relation to Baldoni is being hampered by the very thing that has driven him to behave like that towards Baldoni in the first place. The presence of Baldoni has demonstrated a threat to Ryan Reynolds. Now, leaving Blake Lively to one side for the moment in terms of her motivations, because I haven't yet concluded the analysis of her, so I don't want to give anything away, Reynolds sees Baldoni as a threat. He undoubtedly sees this man who is good-looking and was involved in a film, It Ends With Us, with Blake Lively, as a threat, and he recognises that. What he doesn't realise is that Baldoni represents a threat to his innate need for control, because as an unaware narcissist, Reynolds doesn't realise that that's what he needs. But he will recognise Baldoni as a threat. He will see him as sniffing around his wife, and irrespective, as I say, as to what Blake Lively might have been doing or what she has told Reynolds, the way that Reynolds sees it is that Baldoni is the interloper, that he is the individual that has caused a problem in relation to his relationship with Lively. Undoubtedly, Lively has blamed Baldoni, accusing him of being a sexual harasser, trying to apportion blame to him, driven by whatever driver she has, and Reynolds has bought into that. Reynolds has also bought into the necessity of seeking to destroy Baldoni. That not only was it the case that he was invested in taking over the film, indeed he had written certain scenes for it, which he'd passed off as being done by his wife, but that he has sought to bring about the exclusion and then the breaking of Baldoni as a consequence of the fact that he sees him as this interloper in his marriage and an affront to him. Subconsciously, Reynolds regards his wife as an extension of himself, and therefore any activity towards her affects him. It affects his facade of the caring family man and good husband. It affects his control over his wife. And therefore, this means that not only is Baldoni painted black, but he has a target on him. And a man of Reynolds' nature, with the reach and wealth that he has sought to utilize that in order to bring about the destruction of Baldoni, to smear him, to castigate him, and to crush him, to consign him to oblivion, which is all driven by Reynolds' narcissism, as it seeks to nullify the threat to control that is posed by Baldoni. Accordingly, his narcissism is driving him to behave in the way that he has done and continues to do so against Baldoni. But in seeking to achieve this aim of the destruction of Baldoni, his narcissism has actually been getting in his way. This is common with lesser and mid-range narcissists, something that I've alluded to with regard to my video, Give the Narcissist Enough Rope. And whilst the upper mid-range narcissist is a more accomplished narcissist amongst the mid-range group, they also are not immune to the possibility of the needs of their narcissism creating collateral consequences, which result in problems for the narcissist. Now, in explaining to you how his narcissism is getting in the way, I've also received some input from my PR expert, who I asked to analyse the approach that Ryan Reynolds has been taking. And what you have is a combination of it's his narcissism that has selected a particular PR strategy, but it's not actually working. His narcissism, like any narcissist, needs control in that moment. What happened yesterday and what happens tomorrow is only relevant within the context of control and fuel now. Yesterday is brought up by bringing up the past to influence the now. Tomorrow is involved for future faking or promised gain for the control of the now. And accordingly, the strategy that Reynolds has adopted, probably pursuant to advice and also with regard to his own decision-making, has been one that doesn't find favour with my PR expert for reasons that I shall go on to explain. And the reason why it isn't working is because of the needs of his narcissism to operate in the moment. Supplementing that, of course, is the usual suspects of the narcissist believing they're always right, the narcissist not necessarily following advice, the narcissist operating with that sense of entitlement and lack of accountability. You see, Reynolds is a brilliant marketer and entertainer. He has this unique ability to blend a form of humour, bold branding, and strategic partnerships into seriously enviable, from a professional point of view at least, high-impact promotional campaigns. The level of recognition for him, the hitherto appreciation for him before the Baldoni bust-ups, and the wealth that he has accrued demonstrate that he has been very successful with these promotional campaigns. Through his maximum effort productions, he's redefined how brands communicate, making advertising as engaging as entertainment. The work that he's undertaken with Aviation Gin, Mint Mobile, and Wrexham AFC showcases what my expert refers to as proactive promotional genius. He doesn't just market products, he turns them into viral cultural moments. Now, that success, naturally, is driven as a consequence of some natural talent with regard to his acting and humour, some business acumen, but also, of course, his narcissism. By wanting to assert control over people in order to draw fuel from them and capitalise on the residual benefit, his narcissism has taken those ingredients of humour and acting and business acumen and moulded them into creating these viral cultural moments. And therefore, his narcissism has proven hugely successful in helping him achieve those things. Because by creating these proactive promotional campaigns through Maximum Effort Productions, it allows him to assert control over millions of people, draw fuel from all of those millions of people, and get the residual benefit of being a multimillionaire many times over. Beyond business, Reynolds has also cultivated a larger-than-life persona that makes him instantly likable, or at least superficially, until you dig deeper and have access to more of what's been going on and, of course, my analysis. But at first blush, you're drawn to him. There's a magnetism about him linked to his charisma. His humour, the quick wit, and supposed self-deprecating charm have, hitherto, endeared him to audiences, and it gave him an almost bulletproof public image. However, he has been thriving in a media landscape where visibility equals power, which has made him one of the most influential celebrity marketers of our time. This is where his narcissism has a dual effect. Whilst his narcissism, harnessing the innate skills that he has made him a marketing powerhouse, they then become a liability when it comes to crisis communications. In other words, Reynolds' narcissism is great when all is going well, but when it's not, in the context of the fact that he's so well known, it becomes a problem. Reynolds operates with the belief that control in the moment equals success. That is his subconscious position by virtue of his narcissism. That principle lends itself really well to brand management and branding, but it fails when it comes to reputation management. You see, his approach to PR is about pushing narratives into the media, but issues management often requires keeping stories out of the spotlight. And a narcissist such as Reynolds, as an upper mid-ranger, is still drawn by the need to be seen and to be heard. For instance, your upper greater narcissist, often operating as an eminent squeeze, walking between the walls of influence, moving in the corridors of power, the unseen hand, manipulating matters behind the throne, knows all about how power and control can be flexed without necessarily always being seen. Something similar to the way that your glorious narrator operates. In such circumstances, the power of not having the story heard or seen is known and understood and known to be necessary. But for the upper mid-range narcissists such as Reynolds, having been in effect brought up on a diet of publicity which has worked so well, his narcissism simply thinks we do something similar when it comes to the issue of crisis management, of when it comes to the crisis communications, more and more and more. This is where Reynolds and narcissists similar to him struggle. As someone who is deeply invested in immediate audience perception, he does not instinctively understand that true crisis communication is not about winning the public fight, but about avoiding the fight altogether. But that doesn't sit with his narcissism, because his narcissism demands that he be seen. His narcissism demands that he be heard. His narcissism demands that he does something that's proactive so that he is seen to be nullifying the threat to control. What he's skilled at is offensive PR, not defensive PR. The latter requires restraint, patience, and a focus on long-term reputation over short-term satisfaction, something which lesser mid-range narcissists are not very good at all. Those qualities don't align with his instinctive narcissistic need to dominate the narrative. He wants to destroy Baldoni because Baldoni is painted black. He is the enemy. And his narcissism drives him to do so in a way which is going on the offensive, putting things into the spotlight, trying to highlight that Baldoni is this predator and sexual harasser, that he is the liar, that he is the one that's caused the problem, rather than seeking to keep the whole thing out of the way and dealing with him in a non-public fashion. Reynolds' approach to conflict essentially mirrors the old sledgehammer where a scalpel is needed mentality. His narcissism means that he needs to turn everything into a public spectacle, a joke, or an opportunity for media manipulation. And this works absolutely well in marketing, but it backfires when it comes to personal and legal disputes. The ongoing Baldoni Lively feud is a textbook example. Instead of containing the issue, driven by his narcissism, he's escalated it. He's allegedly participated in black PR tactics, drafting aggressive statements and making moves that turn a private dispute into a Hollywood scandal. This type of black PR, smearing and humiliating the opposition, might, to Reynolds, feel like victory, because his narcissism deems it as victory in the moment. The public laughs as the opponent is covered in shit that's been flung by Reynolds. But in the long run, the person remembered isn't the one that's actually been hit, but the one who's been throwing the bucket of shit around. And this is a major reputational risk. The public tends to forget the scandal, but remembers patterns of behaviour, and Reynolds has established himself as someone who plays dirty when under pressure. Now, my PR expert has worked with many narcissists and narcissistic clients before. Brilliant at promotion, exceptional at commanding attention, but they're ill-equipped to handle reputational crises because their narcissism makes them believe that the same rules apply. The same rules that apply to commanding attention apply to crisis management, and they do not. Marketing is about expansion, crisis communication is about containment. But Reynolds' narcissism doesn't recognize that. The key lessons here are as follows, and if Justin Baldoni happens to be watching this video, you're now getting a slab of advice that ordinarily the PR expert and I would charge hefty amounts for. So here's a pro bono contribution to your global fight against this upper mid-range narcissist. Don't play the game that the narcissist wants to play. Don't do the black PR like Reynolds has been doing. If you're being defamed, by all means defend yourself, but within ethical boundaries. Control in the moment that sacrifices long-term reputation is never worth it, as Reynolds is finding out. People remember the patterns of behaviour. Reynolds, like many high-profile figures, confuses damage and control with dominance. He, driven by his narcissism, wants to win in the moment. But crisis PR is always, I repeat, always about winning in the long run. And that win is often achieved by making sure that there's no public battle at all. Reynolds has failed to do this. He's made it public. He has orchestrated the black PR arts against Baldoni, and it's blown up. Ultimately, Reynolds is now reaching the limits of his goodwill with the public. His well-crafted marketing persona is not able to maneuver past the real reputational damage that this smearing and attempt to destroy Baldoni has created. Some of the most significant PR projects that my expert takes pride in are ones that never ever make the headlines, where immense effort was dedicated behind the scenes to ensure that they actually stayed out of the public eye. Owing to his narcissism, Reynolds is unable to do that. He is a slave to promotion, but this means that in a crisis, he becomes a liability because his narcissism wants him to be seen and wants him to be heard, and actually works against what he's trying to achieve. Reynolds clearly wants to destroy Baldoni. His narcissism screams at him that this must be done for the purpose of the nullification of the threat to control. But the way that he has gone about it, again driven by his narcissism, means that it's actually really working against him. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.